Waiting on a tax return? Hopefully it ends up in your hands. Fraudulent tax returns due to identity theft increased by 30% in 2023. If you're in a bind this tax season, LifeLock can help. Our U.S.-based restoration specialists are experts dedicated to helping solve your identity theft issues. And all LifeLock plans are backed by the $1 Million Protection Package. So we'll reimburse you up to the limits of your plan if you lose money due to identity theft. Help protect your information this tax season with LifeLock. Save up to 25% your first year at LifeLock.com/aware.
Hey everybody, this is Bob Mackey, the host of Talking Simpsons, here to introduce something a bit different than our normal thing. This week we will be doing the first episode of The Critic, just titled Pilot, because it aired in this chronology that we're doing now. So it aired in the middle of Season 5, and we feel like it's so closely connected to The Simpsons we need to talk about it.
Yeah, it was January 1994, the end of the month, and it was time to move on to it. I wanted to try doing a special episode like this because we talk about The Critic so much in the show, especially talking about all the Season 4 people that left to work on The Critic, that I felt we had to at least do the first episode.
And since I am not on this episode. I'm just in the intro.
You were voted off the Simpsons Island.
But The Critic is so good from the first episode, I think, because of every single lesson learned via The Simpsons.
And also borrowing a lot of the same talent,
Totally.
like James L. Brooks, Rich Moore, Jay Sherman is designed by David Silverman, great director.
They set much sillier rules for themselves, but I think they knew that going in, that they wanted it to be a sillier show. And like the show does, it's short-lived, but maintains, I don't know, a pretty perfect tone the whole time. I really like it. Holds up really, really well, and it also doesn't hold up really, really well in that it is a relic of that era, and it was supposed to live right now in 1994, and that was all it was meant to do.
It's a perfect time capsule.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the time I was paying most attention to movies because there was nothing else happening in the world, so I know everything they're talking about. Now that I'm older, I get all the old movie references too, so it's very valuable.
It's
in that
very
way.
rewarding, and I am also here to plug, and this is not to no one's benefit but yours, because this is a weird little experiment, the Laser Time TV project. We don't use it that often. It usually just plays a bunch of our stuff, occasionally some weird episodes. But we're going to program every night from Wednesday, this episode airs, to Friday, 7 to 10 o'clock, will be all Critic episodes. And Saturday and Sunday will be all Critic marathon.
Awesome.
And in between all those will be movie trailers that the Critic is referencing. So
It's beautiful.
you have no excuse not to get in the know and to understand every reference.
Yeah, if you don't remember this episode or you don't recall it easily and you don't have the DVDs, which the DVDs are a pretty good package, but every episode of the show is on YouTube as well, or
It
pretty
is.
much every episode.
Really easy to find. I think it is every episode. So
And you can watch it on the Laser
You can watch
Time
it there,
TV,
like
yes.
it, but you can do it on your browser, so you can watch it on television. It'll autoplay, and you don't know commercials. You'll be fine.
yeah, and if you want us to do more of these, let us know, and we might have more surprises for you later in this season of Talking Simpsons, so stay tuned. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to Talking Critic, our special one-off Critic episode of Talking Simpsons. I am your host, Bob King Dorkenheimer Mackey. Sorry, that's King Dorkenheiser. I got that almost wrong. Who else is here with me today?
I'm Henry Gilbert, and I envy you for not having me, Tandy.
Who else?
I'm Michael Raparez, host of Video Game Apocalypse, and I had to defeat Chris in single combat for the right to be on this episode. So if I'm not as entertaining as him, you can blame my skills with a sword.
We should call an ambulance. And who else is
should.
here?
And I'm Diana Goodman, and my shrink was right. God does hate me.
And today's episode is all about The Pilots, which aired on January 26, 1994. And Henry will tell us what movies were out at this point in real-life history.
Buy my book! Buy my book! Buy my book! Buy my book!
Oh my glory, Bob! Hey, in theaters this week, January was still a dumping ground for films in 1994, and the first movies were Blink, a
Time Sweeper, right?
No, it was a Michael Apted directed thriller about a woman who gains her eyesight again and is being stalked. And the other film was the unasked for remake of Car 54, Where Are You?
Oh, wait, who starred in that?
Buster Poindexter.
Ooh, no.
So those are the films that premiered this week.
I feel like Buster Poindexter headlining a movie feels like a mistake to me. Somebody caught it. Oh wait, he's star. Oh God, we can't undo this. We got to put this out.
Well, I mean, after Hot, he could he could be in anything.
He could write his own ticket.
Years later.
And I think this movie was filmed in 1990 and then released in 1994. It was like something that was mandatory in terms of a contract. They had to release it. So
it was such a bad movie that I never liked Car 54. Where Are You as a kid either. I'd watch Nick at Night all the time, and when it would come out, I was like, this is Honeymooners, but in a cop car.
Well, I mean, once the great theme song is over, it's all downhill, right?
Car 54, where are you?
There's so many problems happening, but
Khrushchev's at Idlewild, crying out loud.
That reference will never get old.
But it had Tootie and the dad from Munsters.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. So Al Jean and Mike Reiss, they were from The Simpsons from the very beginning, season 1 writers. They ran seasons 3 and 4, and they left The Simpsons towards the end of season 4 to create The Critic with James L. Brooks. And Rich Moore is the supervising director, and also David Silverman has a stamp on this, in which so the design for Jay Sherman, the first design, is something that basically David Silverman drew on a cocktail napkin. So this is all just like basic Simpsons DNA coming together, and this show is very Simpsons-y in many, many ways.
There's an amazing Uproxx oral history. Well, sort of. It's just short of an oral history, but it is an interview about how the show came together and if it could ever come back. And The Critic began first as Matt Groening coming to Al Jean and Reiss saying, I want to do a Krusty show. That's Krusty spinoff show that's about behind the scenes on Krusty, and that Krusty is a divorced dad, and he has a makeup lady. And
was it going to be Dan Castellaneta playing Krusty in live action?
So then Matt Groening, being the mercurial person he is, he says, you know what? No, I don't want to make that anymore. What I want to make is a live-action Krusty show where Dan plays Krusty.
Oh, that's what happened, yeah.
And so he pulled back his support from doing a Krusty spinoff with them. Then they decide, we want to do a live-action show about behind the set of a Good Morning America type show that James L. Brooks wanted to make. They were really interested in the idea of a film critic on that show, the Gene Shalit type. And you need to know that at this time, film critics on TV were a big deal. They were major people who could sway opinions on stuff. This is a pre-Metacritic world, a pre-Rotten Tomatoes world, a pre-comments world, a pre-democratizing of film reviews when anybody could review a film.
Yeah, I mean, Siskel and Ebert were recognizable just by their their features.
Gene Shalit, Rex Reed, all of them. And so they wanted to do a show that would then focus, a live action show, which would focus on the film critic that would be on that morning show. And they wrote it for John Lovitz because they loved him in A League of Their Own. And also he was a regular voice on The Simpsons. He was in multiple episodes in season 2 and 3. They write the script for him, and then they offer it up to him. And that's not how you do it in Hollywood. You get agreements that you will write a script for someone because they know he's got them over a barrel of you can't make your expensive show without me. Well, I say no, but it's because John Lovitz was like, I'm going to be a movie star now. I can't be on a live action TV show.
I mean, he just made Mom and Dad Save the World.
Exactly.
He was only going up.
And so, but he would agree to do an animated show, which then they realized was better anyway because then they could do animated versions of film parodies, which would be way cheaper than trying to make them in live action. And so that's how the show was made, and it was sold to ABC in 1993. Al Jean and Mike Reiss leave The Simpsons as they're working on the Critic pilot. They leave The Simpsons, but it's still produced by Gracie Films, the same production company.
That's right.
And
Film Roman?
Film Roman, Rough Draft is involved in this episode.
Okay.
But same Film Roman too. So it's a lot of shared people. Like you said, they got Rich Moore as a producer and supervising director.
A great director. And this episode looks great, but so the genesis of this sort of came from Bart the Daredevil in a way. They mentioned on the commentary when there's a clip of those motorbike riders slam dunking basketballs. Al Jean and Mike Reiss are like, we can make good looking animation, and this is where the Critic sort of came from in a way. The genesis where the Critic looks really good. It's animated well for the most part, with way more flourishes than you would ever see on The Simpsons.
I was a big movie fan, so I was of course going to watch. Well, I was going to watch anything that. If I read a TV guide, Simpsons people worked on it, I was going to watch it. Not to mention, I watched just about any primetime animated show I could see. But there have been so many Simpsons pretenders, but they weren't made by Simpsons people. But the Critic was.
I was the same way. I was so pumped for this. because it's like, here, Diana, this is for you. Even, when would you say 94? So I was like probably a junior, senior in high school.
January 26th.
This was after you'd seen Gene Shalit for the first time and said, yes, that's what I want to be when I grow up.
I'm still working on that mustache. It's just not quite. I can't get the length. I believe it's later on when this moves to Fox and they pair it with The Simpsons that my Sundays were all film all the time. It was the best thing ever. There was a PBS series on the history of film, which you could actually get college credit for as an introduction to film history show. This I think ran from like 6:30 to 7:30 or 6 to 7. Then I watched Siskel and Ebert 7:30. Then Critic, Simpsons. My life is so wonderful. That's how explaining why I am the giant film nerd that I am. It was good times.
I had a somewhat similar background. I watched Siskel and Ebert from 1992 until probably until Gene Siskel died. So Roger Ebert turned me on to anime. He was like, "Go
son of a bitch.
see My Neighbor Totoro. It's really good." And I was like, "Oh, this is really good. Thanks, Roger Ebert." Because
Grave of the Fireflies for me.
Their video pick of the week. But yeah, I was steeped in the world of film criticism because I was a young idiot.
That interesting.
Who thought he was smarter than everyone.
That interest in anime also led to his one video game review that he did for, I think, Wired.
Oh, wow.
On the cosmology of Kyoto.
Oh, my God.
This is like a super obscure, HyperCard-style game for Mac that came out in the early 90s.
Jeez, I must have missed this. So, yeah, I was steeped in this world.
Siskel and Ebert was just such a tradition, just every Sunday.
And when this appeared on Fox a year later, I wasn't reading Variety, I wasn't reading the rags or whatever, so it was just like, oh, The Critic is back, and it's next to The Simpsons, and it's all new episodes, and it was just like, could my life get better? It didn't. Yep. But at that moment, at that moment, I was like, "This is the best thing ever."
I was just a middle-class white dirtbag, and hey, I like Simpsons. Hey, this Critic show is pretty good. It looks pretty good, and it's just fantastic jokes. And we rewatched this episode that we're going to talk about, and it amazed me that I expected this to be really stale, and it holds up so beautifully. The jokes are still really sharp. The writing is amazing, and I remember thinking at the time, I hate most of what's on network TV, but The Critic's really good. I'll watch that whenever.
Yeah.
It's a really good pilot, though it was also interesting to watch it now as an adult who did become a Jay Sherman type in my life. And I don't just mean like a fat monster.
My God.
No, what I mean is we all did become critics. We are critics, and we are writers, and we are people who wear free things.
Yes.
From people.
That really spoke to me.
I know.
More than ever.
It stinks is something I've never said about a free t-shirt.
And as a 34-year-old currently, hearing that Jay is 36, I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. Well, he's a mess for 36.
He is, but
as a 38-year-old, it really hurts. It's I thought he was somewhere in his late 40s.
Yes.
Come on.
Based on the way he looks, he should be. But, I mean, do we want to hit the opening, which is beautiful? Opens with a shot of the Twin Towers. That will never be dated or make you remember horrors in any way.
I know. It's an amazing... Gene and Reese talked about how they wanted to make it as different from The Simpsons in so many ways, but structurally, the opening is very Simpsons.
It really is. They have two versions of couch gags in this.
Their chalkboard joke is the phone call.
Yeah.
And their couch gag is the movie parody. And so, and in this one, it is a mean phone call from his mom. The first joke, the first phone call joke is so mean. And then you get the opening, which is, I did not capture the sound of the opening. You probably heard it when you listened to this episode.
Right.
But just it is a very intentional music style choice, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is directly sort of a sound-alike to George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. As soon as you hear this, you'll be like, oh, it's the Critic opening, right? But it's not. It's such a perfect...
I'm ready for my United flight to take off now.
Oh my God, you're right. Yeah.
Ooh, United Airlines. I got a lot of material ready for that.
But that makes it's a dual reference, because it's not just it sounds like Rhapsody in Blue.
Is it, I know what you're going to say.
But it sounds like Rhapsody in Blue because of the opening to Manhattan.
That's right. In
the
Manhattan,
Woody Allen film.
That movie is forever tainted because it's about Woody Allen dating a high schooler, which is like you can't go back to that anymore.
Except for that, it's a wonderful movie.
Oh yeah, beautiful cinematography about a pedophile, but
but it opens with this montage.
It's called an ephebophile.
Oh jeez. The internet pedant strikes again.
No, but it opens with this beautiful black and white montage of him doing a voiceover as he's writing something about New York City, and it's just hits with, it's edited to the music really well, and just like New York was his city and it always will be. Guggenheim, Met Stadium.
And that shot of the bridge is borrowed in the Critic opening, right? Except the bridge collapses. That could be a season 2 thing.
That's he's on a date in that same scene.
With Alice.
And let's save that season 2 talk for another day. But
also mention that the music is Hans Zimmer. Before Hans Zimmer did every movie of all time.
Before it was a big deal, although he was a regular sized deal.
He was a regular sized deal. I'm sure he probably had finished the music for Lion King at this point.
Oh wow! Yes. Did he do the incidental music for the series, or just the opening, like Danny Elfman?
I think it was
just
an
the
Elfman.
opening.
So was this Alf Clausen then, maybe, right? Or
I do believe Clausen worked on it too. I did see that Richard Sakai was a consulting producer on this. You'll see a number of Simpsons producer names in there. It's also interesting that a lot of the character designs in it feel very based on Hirschfeld too, of that style, especially. David Silverman did the original design of the Critic.
Yeah, he loves Hirschfeld. In fact, he got a Hirschfeld of himself before Hirschfeld died.
Yeah, a commission. It wasn't
it wasn't just like he just got it in the mail or whatever. But Alf Clausen did score the Critic, not the opening song, but the music you hear throughout.
So you have this combination. It's super New York. That's already a major difference. It is from The Simpsons. The Simpsons is in any town USA, Springfield. Wherever that is, this is New York City in the early 90s. That's specifically where it is, the World Trade Center, all that stuff. And their Rhapsody in Blue thing is also interesting to me because in Fantasia 2000, best segment in it is the Rhapsody in Blue one, animated in the style of Hirschfeld.
It's done in the Hirschfeld style.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Look it up if you've never seen it. Well, it's the best section of it.
Listening to the commentary on the first episode, they talk about how the premise was like the exact opposite of Simpsons. Like it's in a big city. It's in New York. He's educated, and like they expected that to be a hit in New York, and it wasn't. Like it was sort of a hit out in the Midwest. Like in small towns, but New Yorkers hated it.
I was watching it in my shitty town in Ohio. But you're right, Michael. I think the one distinction between this and almost every other animated show is that Jay Sherman is smart. Yeah. I mean, he's occasionally distracted by his vices. That's when he becomes stupid, when he's hungry or horny or whatever. But he's the smartest character in the show, usually.
As the series goes on, he gets flanderized to be a stupid giant pig. But in though also the show from the first episode is so mean, and the series is about getting less mean as the show goes on. I mean, the biggest jump is at the start of season 2, but even by the end of season 1, you're like, this is a little mean. Can we have a happier ending here? But this one is just like cruel to Jay from the beginning.
Just the idea that they're like, oh, we'll promote this by putting it with Home Improvement. Like the ultimate family sitcom.
Yes. Well, they also talked about how
sour, single motherfucker hates everybody.
It's a cartoon. The kids will love it.
And I think at the end of one episode where something incredibly messed up happens, Jay's like, and stay tuned for Home Improvement coming up next.
Well, and they talk about how specifically this episode was disliked by the executives for its content.
Scandal.
But this also, just to connect it one more time to The Simpsons, that this show really let Gene and Reese get into their darker feelings about The Simpsons that they did on The Simpsons, and also their love of like, let's just have Homer watch a cartoon, or let's have him watch a movie, and then we can just do a movie joke.
I mean, they became noted for opening with parodies on their episodes, I think, and this episode has a lot of like mini parodies snuck in.
The episode that's begin with like someone watching McBain, and they're like, okay, now it can start. That is patterned very similar to how a Critic episode will work. Though it's so weird that like they already get all the movie references they want from his job. But then he'll just still walk by movies all the time.
He lives in a movie reference.
Yes, exactly. And I contend that Family Guy rips off the Critic more than The Simpsons.
Yeah, well, the non sequitur cutaways started here.
Even more. Well, I mean, Simpsons started it. Critic indulged even more so. Perfected it in a way I think that Family Guy would later do. But let's Sorry, I want to hear the first joke of the show that sets the tone for everything.
Oh.
What's wrong?
I'm 36 years old. I'm lonely. My hair comes out of a spray can. I had to go on camera without this stuff. Let the world see me as I really am.
It's empty.
Oh, I'm bald and ugly. Get more.
And I discovered the origins of hair in a can. I had seen this infomercial and this commercial at the time, but I looked it up, and it is it looks magical, but I imagine it sucks and doesn't work well, and your fake hair is constantly flaking off on your shoulders all day.
It seems to do nothing. Like I
For
remember,
Jay, it does nothing. It does not change his character design at all.
At the time, I was thinking, like, so is it that he's going gray, and that's to keep it black because he still looks completely bald.
He has a very Homer Simpson, like, 3 hair kind of thing coming out the back of his head. But this is basically for if your hair is thinning, it fills in the color a bit to disguise your baldness. But Henry can play this, and we'll hear all about Ronco.
It's Ronco?
GLH means great-looking hair. Just spray GLH on, and it instantly covers your bald spot, leaving you with great-looking hair. And ladies with thinning hair or bald spots, GLH solves the problem instantly.
It's so convincing, everybody listening at home.
Oh, my God.
That's just
It's an amazing powder that clings to the tiniest hairs on your head. It actually builds on itself, leaving you with great
Really just looks like they're spray painting a guy's head.
Pretty much.
Wow. That's incredible. This is the first time I've ever used this product. I saw it on the infomercials, and I was skeptical at first.
I think it is $40 for a can of that, too.
After I looked into the Consumer Reports article on it and weighed my options by shopping around.
Which hair in a can is right for me?
I like to think that Jay started using that when he was beginning to go bald, and he just couldn't give it up.
You can't just spray that on a scalp. We should also mention that Doris Grau, one of the best voices, I think she died in like 1995. Not long after. So all the jokes about cancer in the Critic are kind of painful now.
They talk about how they asked her to do jokes of like cough more in this joke, and it's just like she's dying.
Yeah,
she's an old woman who coughs all the time and sounds that way because she did smoke all the time, just like Doris the character did.
I just love how she was a million incidental voices on The Simpsons, like "Watch how fast I go," like things like that. And
most famously, Lunch Lady Doris.
Yeah, perfectly Lunch Lady Doris. But here she is like the perfect sour character with a little bit of heart to her. She's world weary, but she's been around, and you know where it's coming from. But I miss Doris Grau's voice so much. She's been dead for like over 20 years.
I don't have a death jingle on this because I just would be playing like 4 times on this episode.
Death stalks you at every turn.
Yes,
so she was like a script supervisor or something?
She was
just
for Gracie
a person
Films.
who just incidentally had an awesome voice.
Yeah, I mean, she would just be there at script readings, and she would give Al Jean and Mike Reese feedback like, "Oh, that's so sweet. Leave that in." And they just would love. I mean, wouldn't you fall in love with that voice if you heard it? I would want her on a cartoon.
Supposed to be a puppy.
And I would cast her in everything after that. I go, we got to have your voice. Then we get our first film parody in the series.
Tonight I'll be reviewing Home Alone 5.
We left Kevin home alone, and he's only 23!
So, I mean, watching
the stubble and the cigarette falls out of his mouth.
I love the cigarette
Such
and the great caricatures, but this it struck me upon having researched The Simpsons and knowing what goes into making that show. The amount of work that goes into making a Critic episode, you need new character designs for every parody, not just one drawing. Like, what does this character look like from the side, in the front, in the back? Like, how do they move? Like, we need character designs for every caricature.
For like every 10 seconds of footage.
Pretty much,
Every time they have a new one. Now, there was a 5th Home Alone film. So they got up number-wise to 4, and then the actual 5th Home Alone film was a bullshit ABC Family reboot called Holiday Heist that was completely unrelated to any McAllister. No McAllister family.
Not even French Stewart would touch this. Sorry.
No.
Oh, God. I think Macaulay Culkin actually looks better than his like aged-up caricature in that bit.
He partied a bit.
He needs to put on a little weight. He's looking kind of gaunt.
Maybe put down the needles, perhaps.
Fellow child actor Seth Green says that Macaulay Culkin's one of the best adjusted people he knows. And
I feel like he has a vested interest in saying that things are fine for Macaulay Culkin.
But I think he was only 14 when this episode aired, so...
no way. He was like even 12 at best. Like, he was still pretty young when the first Home Alone came out. And then the second film parody comes straight after that, and it is... honestly, a bunch of cheap Arnold jokes. I don't know.
And yet timeless.
Yeah.
Because I love you people, I won't force you to watch the musical number. Well, maybe just a little.
Dreidel, 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 I made you out of clay.
Heh.
I just love that.
Rabbi P.I.
So, I mean, they got some great ringers in terms of doing their voice characterizations. There's Maurice LaMarche, just a great voice actor guy, and Nick Jameson, who you don't hear his name as much, but he does a lot of stuff. He was actually Max in the Sam & Max video game. He was the original Max. So, like, they do most of the heavy hitting in terms of the impressions, but they also play with people like Jeremy Hawk and Vlada and things like that. So they got some great voice guys.
When they need any actor, when they need any famous person, they're like, well, I guess we can get Maurice. He can just do that. Maurice can do that character. Maurice can do any voice if we need it. But it ended up going the other way around. There's like, well, Maurice is good at Orson Welles. Well, then let's write an Orson Welles.
Yeah, I mean, we should say Maurice LaMarche best known for being the brain in Pinky and the Brain, but also being a million other characters. Yes. And also, I think he started in voice acting by playing Egon on The Real Ghostbusters. Him doing a pretty good Harold Ramis. Yeah.
And we get our first meeting of the Shermometer, and then we get to meet Duke Phillips.
Yes.
Another dead voice already.
Charles Napier. Again, I mean, I feel like they're borrowing from their past work. This is sort of their Mr. Burns, an all-powerful, enigmatic weirdo.
Except he's Ted Turner.
He's Ted Turner, yeah.
Not Barry Diller.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. I love Charles Napier's voice so much.
He was so great on Squidbillies first season.
Yes.
Yep.
Why the hell do you have to be so critical?
I'm a critic.
No, your job is to rate movies on a scale from good to excellent.
What if I don't like them?
That's what good's for.
Mr. Phillips, we go on in 5 seconds?
I own this network, boy. Just put up that picture of me on a horse.
I gotta say, that feels painfully familiar.
Yes, as game reviewers, we've all heard that. Yeah.
Perhaps.
Your job is to score games on a scale of 7 to 10.
Yeah.
That's what 7 is for.
That's what 7
If it's 9 or below, that means you think it's garbage, and we have the right to dox you and find out where you live.
I mean, I have like a billion Duke Phillips lines in my head. They don't just watch it; they send it money.
Oh, God.
It didn't seem to like the sound of my voice.
Charles Napier, unironically, is one of my favorite actors of all time. He's in Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, of all things.
Isn't he in a lot of Russ Meyer movies, like Faster Pussycat? Is he in that one?
I don't remember if he's in Faster Pussycat.
He was usually in there to be the like conservative dude or the cop who beats people.
He's also like one of the heavies in Rambo First Blood Part 2.
Yeah,
he's in Silence of the Lambs. I think he's the guy who gets his face stolen.
Gets his face ripped off.
And he's the head of the Good Old Boys in the Blues Brothers.
That's right.
He's an amazing actor who I think it shows you like if he's in all these things and he's not the characters he play in real life, he's not the guy he plays so well.
Yeah,
but he's so great. But it is a Ted Turner character. That's who Duke Phillips is.
I really wish that he had gotten to write an autobiography because like the longest read a couple of long interviews with him. I think the AV Club did a really good one.
Oh yeah, random roles.
He just randomly runs into people. Is like, so you auditioned for Hitchcock, and he's like, well, yeah, I was kind of homeless, so I was living at this car lot.
Wow.
And Hunter S. Thompson and me were hanging out, and then I'm like,
what a life.
What? Yeah. Then we went to Mardi Gras, and I'm like, Mardi Gras with those two. Oh my God, where's my time machine?
Party. Yeah, I mean, the Critic had such great Southern voices. We have Charles Napier, and then the next season, Park Overall, which has it's the greatest Southern voice in the world.
We're the bears who sing for you. But Ted Turner,
drunken bears.
In case you didn't know, Ted Turner has not been in power he hasn't been a media mogul in over 15 years. Ever since he got bought out by AOL in the Time Warner merger.
Post Critic, right?
Post-Critic,
in the late 90s.
But he was
the show destroyed him.
Ted Turner was so ahead of his time. Like he was an Atlanta-based media mogul. Was like, cable is where it's at, and I should own content. People are always renting these MGM films. Screw that. I'm buying the whole library.
Yep.
People, I have to bargain with Major League Baseball for games. No, I own the Atlanta Braves, and they're going to be on my channel.
Another Simpsons joke.
And also
Atlanta Braves baseball.
Exactly. He bought a pro wrestling company so he could get the pro wrestling stuff on his channel. He bought the entire Hanna-Barbera library so he could have that on his channel. He knew that content was king, so they could be on all his channels, starting with the superstation WTBS, Atlanta, Georgia, followed by CNN. then TNT.
TNT, right.
Yep.
But
then into Cartoon Network, TCM, a channel that
classic movies.
That's still the only movie channel that still plays movies.
Yeah.
And colorization would be a plot point on the show.
He caught so much flack for that, but it was really just like, look, people aren't watching these old movies because they're in black and white, and that's stupid. If it takes colorization to get people to watch it, I will do that, and nobody liked it.
I kind of wonder if they get some sort of charitable write-off for TCM, because it's a channel that only runs old movies and has no ads whatsoever. It's just
true.
it's just a public service.
It's beautiful. It's
well, I mean, other than running the channel, like they're not paying for new programming, really.
I mean, Ben Mankiewicz gets paid in sandwiches, I think.
We'll pay for your cab right here. That's it, buddy.
I'd do that for free.
Oh, jeez.
But Turner, after he also famously married Jane Fonda, which did not work out, or they're no longer together.
Oh,
and
they're so happy together.
If you want to find a picture of Ted Turner riding a horse, like Duke Phillips talks about, Google that and you will find about 8 dozen different photos of him riding horses. I believe he became a rancher. Like after he sold off, he's like, I'm just going to ranch buffaloes.
He bought he bought like half of Montana.
Yes, and
it's easy to do if you're a millionaire.
That's what he's up to.
A billionaire.
Days.
Look, this isn't art. It's just mindless pablum for losers who can barely read. Oh, that reminds me. I've got an interview with People magazine.
Mr. Phillips, you're fabulously wealthy. You're a world-class athlete. You were great in bed last night. How does that feel?
I have no one to envy. I envy you having me to envy.
The Critic will be right back, you TV-addicted couch monkeys.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and if you like listening to stuff, it's a good thing this episode is brought to you by Audible. And before I tell you more about it, know that you can go to audibletrial.com/lasertime and get started with a free audiobook and a free 30-day trial of all Audible is. What is Audible? They've got over 180,000 different titles to choose from, ranging from audiobooks, comedy albums, radio shows, some of my favorite old-timey radio shows, and you can listen to them all on your iPhone, Android, MP3 player, desktop, tablet, doesn't matter, wherever you can plug in headphones. Audible's got all your bestsellers, your Game of Thrones, your Harry Potters, the latest biography from whatever comedian it is you like, and they have become my go-to place to get audiobooks for an incredibly low cost. So once again, that's Audible, people, and you can go to audibletrial.com/lasertime and get a free audiobook and a free 30-day trial of the service.
Watch my new show, The Critic, from the producers of The Simpsons. Only this time they're sober. Oh.
The Critic, coming soon.
You like Laser Time shows? Then you might like Bonus Time, Laser Time's weekly bonus show exclusively on patreon.com/lasertime. Here's a taste of what you've been missing.
This weekend, on Friday, my girlfriend had a Groupon for archery.
Really thought that was a lame excuse to get out of doing work.
No, I literally had, and it was like, this is the last day she could do it, and it was like, it's always weird to go to this is like an archery kind of superstore. So one half of it is like doing archery.
I told you that shit with Dolly Parton. I'm stepping into a fan base that I know nothing about. That's existed all around me for years.
Yeah, there's 4 guys at the counter. Two guys working the counter.
Hey,
two guys
get a compound bow.
Yeah, two regulars who are they're wearing their archery jackets, and they got their pro level bows.
Mickey Arch Deluxe Antonio.
There's so many different bows in the background. There's posters oh look, the top bowman of 1997. Look at him. He signed the poster. Isn't that cool? And it's this is a world I know nothing about.
The fuck? Every time I see something like that, now all I think of there's still jobs out there.
Yeah.
I could be the guy who mats the poster for the archery.
Especially since a bow will cost you $700.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was super fun.
Get Bonus Time, Laser Time's weekly, full-length, uncensored, and ad-free Patreon-exclusive podcast, as well as full-length movie commentaries, wrestling and cartoon video commentaries, the first season of Talking Simpson, and more at patreon.com/lasertime, starting at just $5. You'll help us live, and we'll do our best to help you never be bored again.
This episode has to do so much, and part of that is introducing every single major character, and they kind of just have to they find novel ways to have them explain themselves to other people for setup purposes.
They do a really great job, I think, especially with Duke.
Yeah, they introduced so many. I didn't even realize that this was the pilot. Because they just, all the characters just sort of naturally seem to pop up.
Yeah, I don't think Jay's any different here than he is in season 2, aside from his looks, or anyone else, really.
Well, his head gets flatter just as this season goes on.
Yeah.
They really were not into how flat David Silverman made his head. They prefer the redesign. Definitely.
It's such a fun design. I just love his weird, springy head hairs, and just he's like a weird, squished down Homer almost.
Yeah.
But it's something about the way that they animate just the seriousness of Duke looking off in the distance, thinking about how he has no one to envy.
Yes, he's so
it's that's just a throwaway. It's not a visual joke. It's entirely an auditory joke, and they still somehow make it a visual joke.
Yeah,
too.
the visuals really pop on this show more than The Simpsons, I think, in general.
And it's also interesting on a pilot that they introduce a new character, a guest character, but in a pilot, she's been in as much of the show as any other character. So I think part of the trick of this episode is you're supposed to think, oh, is she a regular too? Is she going to be his girlfriend the rest of the series? But when we first meet her, I also like the recurring joke that no one watches Jay except people who mock him.
I'm your biggest fan.
Oh, I have no fans. Most of my viewers are drunken frat boys who like to make fun of me.
Hey, look, he's picking his nose.
It's really simple. I find smart men very sexy, and you are the most intelligent man on television.
So that is Valerie Fox, who is sort of the Sharon Stone-ish character of this. She even does the leg uncrossing thing in this segment.
Oh,
we get a shot of that?
I never
that tells you it's the early 90s with the Sharon Stone.
Joke.
Yeah.
No one had ever seen a vagina before.
It blew all our minds.
Invented the vagina. But I didn't realize that the voice is Jennifer Lean.
Yes.
Again, who I did a question mark, and it's Kes from Star Trek Voyager.
That is what she is most famous for, but she also was in SLC Punk as Sandy, and she is Davina in American History X. So she played some punky / angry characters in the 90s,
and she's extremely young in this. I think she's 20 playing this character.
Yeah, but she does that classic smoky voice.
Yes,
so
Kathleen
well.
Turner.
It's very good. So knowing how this episode ends, I wanted to ask everybody here, do you think that Valerie Fox from the beginning is interested in Jay, or if it all was just a ruse to get a good review and then she was going to leave it?
That's kind of the eternal question that I have after seeing this show, that I kind of think it might have been genuine because she doesn't get at all annoyed or worried when he's like, oh, I can't go to your premiere. Although she may have masterminded the delivery of the videotape at the end.
You see, I kind of think that she actually does care for him because she doesn't have to go that far to get a good review. Just based on his reaction, and she has him wrapped around her little finger immediately. You don't have to sleep with him and meet his parents. You can just throw him a bone, just oh, I really care about you.
I think
that's it.
I think the
If
intent.
you want a bribe, come on.
I think the intent is, yes, she really does like him, but I feel like it's not handled very well. And I get some flashbacks to Lurleen Lumpkin. Algene and Mike Reese ran that season, and I feel like she wasn't really explored that much. It was more like, oh, she likes Homer, and that's the main focus. But there's never a why.
If they could have just had a line at the end where she says, "You were too mean to me," or "I thought we were cool with this," or just something that explained it.
It could also be it's trying to make the point he can't keep a relationship because on top of all his other obvious flaws, he's kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
But he's so nice. Well, this is getting to the end of the episode. But
he's very gingerly about it.
I was curious about it. So then we get some more regulars. They go to Lane Riche or
Lane Riche.
Lane Riche,
which
the
means
wealthy ass.
The wealthy ass.
And we get to meet another regular.
Oh, Mr. Sherman, I have saved for you the very best Bible in the house. Just perfect for the schmoozing.
Conan O'Brien!
Oh, great. They sat us in the Critic section.
Pelican brief, more like turkey too long.
Even Satan himself would love this angel hair pasta. It's a goodbye. And so, goodbye.
from Mr. Good Guy, Gene Shalit.
That's really him.
Yes.
So, two things. Vlada is Gabor, right?
He is. I am certain he is Gabor
Chupo of Klasky Chupo fame, who Dr. Nick is kind of based on in its own way.
As is a character on Hey Arnold who is a deadbeat jerk in Hey Arnold. The guy's like, oh, what? I just need to borrow the money.
Oh, no. Gabor really gets around.
It makes you feel like in the animation industry, Gabor is very well known and not particularly loved.
No.
In what was supposed to be the first episode of The Simpsons, they joke about him delivering a thing they didn't like and him saying, maybe script is shit.
Yeah. In the famous Gabor delivery. But thing number 2, if you look at the credits of this and early Simpsons, guess who's a character designer? Mm-hmm. Everett Peck, creator of Duckman. This is a Duckman-ass looking character. You notice his head can never turn. It's just stuck in like one expression. But I feel like
rather extreme.
He could be on Duckman, this character.
He could be.
Yes, Duckman premiering in 2 months.
He's always like in semi-profile to the camera, no matter which direction he's looking, and always tilted upwards.
So I feel like Everett Peck did draw him.
Weird features that are just not like. You try to imagine what he looks like face on, and it's like it's impossible.
He's very cubist looking,
and his son, who we meet later in the series, has the same head.
Exactly, it's a very strange head. But yeah, Everett Peck, character designer on the Critic. So there you go.
I like your theory. I think, but I definitely feel like that is them mocking Gabor.
Yeah, but in my life, Duckman unites everything, so I must bring it back.
But Vlada is a jerk who constantly takes advantage of Jay and just likes. I like your money. You come here, and it just lets them do every mean joke.
I just thought thing 3. The joke is no one cares who Conan O'Brien is, especially when this was being written. The fact that Jay will get bumped for Conan is the joke.
Yes. Well, and it is Conan's friends / former bosses making fun of Conan.
Yeah. Who is probably assumed the show would be canceled by now.
Oh yeah, they were all certain the show would be canceled. There's Conan jokes in the episode where Jay goes to L.A. in the first season. There's tons of Conan jokes in there too. And also, I love that the critic section of a restaurant is just every miserable fucker is just like, everything sucks.
My job is to see movies. I hate everything.
Yeah,
but
except for Gene Shalit, he's always been very upbeat.
The good guy.
And very punny. So we get 1 of 2 Donald Trump jokes. God, very relevant.
Yeah. I hated this
in
joke
94.
so much. It really took me out of the episode.
You were a model, weren't you?
Don't pigeonhole me. Yes, I was a model. Yes, I was a beauty queen. Yes, I dated Donald Trump.
Ugh. I hated that so much. Just like I didn't want. There's a Trump Tower. It's visual. We've got no audio of it, but there's a Trump Tower foreclosure joke in there too.
They're
like
kissing in front of it. Yeah,
you're so happy.
If only. But there's so many jokes in here. Just like Donald Trump was old news in 1994. Like people lived through 10 years of more than 10 years of Donald Trump being famous at that point, and he was already a joke then.
Just like a national joke for 40 years until he became president.
You could tell them when they were writing this script, like, you're making fun of the president now. And the fact that he dates all these models and everything, it's just like, ugh, yuck.
This is pre-Melania.
Yeah. And she said dated with quotes on it. So if that's sweet. But they seem to have a pretty good time together, the two of them.
This door's going to close soon, and whether I'm inside or outside could change our lives forever.
Say, what do you do in your movie?
I play a woman who seduces chubby men and kills them in their sleep.
Interesting.
Nothing goes anywhere with that, but I like that line.
That's more of an episode 2 thing.
You seem to have a psychotic obsession with me.
Though having her there also allows him to explain himself more, like setting up that he's a Pulitzer Prize-winning writer. So he's, unlike, say, Homer Simpson, Jay Sherman is very good at his job.
He's very well educated.
He's not an underachiever.
No, and not proud of it either.
No.
He's an overachiever and proud of it.
He's no Bart Simpson.
We learn about his salary later in this episode, too, and it's pretty high.
Yeah. But that he is still a food pig. Even in the first episode, they're like, he like, more. He can't. And, of course, there is a Dances with Wolves gag, just to, again, make you know, this is the early 90s when nobody has thought of Dances with Wolves since then.
I'm glad it'd be Goodfellas because it's the more timeless movie.
Oh, totally. But that just showed me how many cutaways they did all the time. It's just like they did back-to-back cutaways there, and that they already had the excuse of movie clips he's going to watch, but they still like, no. Jay also has to remember things and cut back to them. Here's another dead actor.
Dad, you're out of Doritos.
What are you doing here?
We were going to go shopping for Husky Pants together.
Excuse us.
Then you were going to take me to that ice cream place and tell them it's my birthday again. Shh. What?
Shut up. Now, son, you may just have noticed there was a beautiful woman in my bed.
I won't tell anyone.
Actually, I wish you would tell everyone, particularly your mother and her personal trainer, Alberto.
He says I should call him Uncle Al now.
So Christine Cavanaugh,
because he's so great and I love him so much.
It can't go by without saying Christine Cavanaugh, just a lovely voice actress, and she's not with us anymore. She died in 2014. She retired mysteriously in 2000. I think she had some sort of debilitating illness or something.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. She was most famously Chucky, Finster, and Dexter on Dexter's
and also
Laboratory.
Goslin on Darkwing Duck. I feel like her voice is so distinct. It just says 90s cartoons to me, her voice.
And she also was Ugg's love interest on Salute Your
That's
Shorts.
Right. One of her few live action appearances.
Yeah, she was a park ranger, I believe. And so she's great as Marty. What I love about the relationship of
and
Marty...
she's Babe in the first Babe.
She is Babe, yes. I love Marty's relationship with Jay is really nice because Marty loves and respects his dad, and they're more like friends of just like, well, we're both fat guys, and I listen to you and love you, Dad. Unlike Bart, who's just mean, or Lisa, who loves Homer, but is still just like, you're not as smart as me.
Yeah, Marty sees none of Jay's flaws.
Yeah.
He thinks a fun day out is lying to the ice cream parlor and buying Husky Pants.
We never see Jay lecturing him or anything, or like getting mad at him. They're on the same level almost. It's really refreshing to see in a show like this.
It really is like Jay has a mini-me.
He kind of is, yeah.
Yeah. A major difference, too, from The Simpsons is that he's divorced, and that this is a very different thing than of like, the main character is a divorced single father, and I do feel like some people on the staff there, baby Al Jean, have been going through some marriage issues, and so made a character who is going through a divorce, and it's an excuse for a lot of alimony payments and Uncle Albertos who spend your money.
His ex-wife Ardith is not viewed in the kindest light.
No. Ardith is pretty bad.
Well, and the fact that like he's divorced and is sleeping with a woman he's not married to was a big deal in the early 90s. Like that just it wasn't done, especially not on sitcoms.
Not on a cartoon because kids watch them.
And on ABC, the channel of Home Improvement and TGIF.
I like when he's talking to Marty. He's like, "Actually, I wish you would tell everyone." I won't tell anyone, Dad.
It's interesting that this episode. I kept waiting for a gay joke at some point in this episode. It's one of the few.
You get a kind of an icky joke later in the episode.
But they don't have a joke that Jay Sherman is gay. Or it's because...
Later you would get a lot of those.
Yeah,
the bald gay man.
When you hear Al Jean and Mike Reese on commentaries with John Lovitz...
Oh my God.
Which is not on not the Critic DVDs, but on the Simpsons DVDs.
Yeah, gay.
But they are constantly throwing gay jokes at each other like, you're gay. No, you're gay. No, you're gay.
Did you come up with that joke when you were in bed together?
Yes,
that's my bad, John Lovitz. I'm sorry.
Speaking of, I think that's like the one sticking point of this episode that like I don't think it was at all intended this way, but it's possible to read it like the whole romance in a very misogynistic light. Like number one, like she's a beautiful woman who's attracted to the nerdy fat guy, and then with what happens at the end, like maybe she was stringing him along the whole time. Women are all whores.
It could be handled better. It's unclear. I mean, I see the intent, and they probably didn't mean that, but they didn't like really address it the right way.
The ambiguity opens up bad interpretations, unfortunately. But and I want to go with the better angels on that they'd be like, no, we're not saying that all women use men.
Well, I think the bottom line is we find out she's a bad actress.
That's
so
true.
how could she pull it off in real life?
Exactly.
Yes,
that's true.
You're right, Diana.
I mean, that could be. I think that's a statement about her character, though, too. That Valerie Fox is great at faking people in one-on-one, but acting on camera she's not good at. That could be it too. I'm trying to bring the most misogynist reading I can.
It could just be a really good bookend with the Jean-Paul de Pope episode where it's like, I guess I must be a pretty good actor then.
Yeah. So now why couldn't they just make fun of Jean-Claude Van Damme? Like, why do they have to make it Jean-Paul?
That's weird. Some kind of lawsuit issue. But we meet next Jay's best friend, Jeremy Hawk, a clear Paul Hogan alike, played by Maurice LaMarche.
Is Maurice LaMarche in a regular role, and it's fun that he's friends with an attractive actor. It's an interesting, best friend to work with. I just wish that Crocodile Gandhi, for a recurring joke in the show, is really kind of a cheap parody.
A little too late, too.
Yes.
Mr. Hawk, could I have your autograph? I just loved you in Crocodile Gandhi.
You see? People did like that picture. I'm sorry. I just didn't think you made a very convincing Mahatma.
I will bring peace between the Hindu and the Muslim. But first, a tasteful glimpse of me bottom for the ladies.
Now, I think that's a
Don't look so smug. I've got my fans, too.
Excuse me. Could I rub your hump for luck?
I don't have a hump.
You hunchbacks are so selfish.
Get away from me.
I think Maurice LaMarche's Australian accent is pretty accurate. We work with an Australian person, and I don't. It doesn't really sound off to me. I think he's got it.
They were saying in the commentary that people Australians assumed he was Australian.
As a kid, I thought
it's as high a compliment I think as you can give to an accent.
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, I assumed they just had Paul Hogan do this voice, just like, oh yeah, the Crocodile Dundee guy. He's in the show.
Yeah. I love that. There's one thing about him that we have actually everything about Jeremy established, that they're best friends, that Jay has slammed his movies before, but they're okay with it, that he makes pretty stupid stuff that's meant to just work on his looks, and that he throws Yiddish around for no reason.
Yes. A lot of characters do. Like later, his season 2 girlfriend Alice, with the deepest Southern accent, says, "My daddy always says, be a mensch, not a schmendrick." So everyone is just naturally Yiddish, naturally knows Yiddish expressions in this universe.
I like that bit about it, though. It's also funny because Mike Reese talks about how he is ethnically. I've heard him in interviews joke that he is ethnically Jewish, but not. He wasn't a practicing Jew at all. Like a very secular family, but he jokes. He said that he made money in college posing for anti-Semitic hate drawings because of how he looks.
Well, I mean, if you look at Marty Sherman, you'll be like, "Oh, that's Mike Reese," even though he's 60 now and is older. You can immediately see that's Mike Reese.
It's childhood Mike Reese, which I'd love to interview Mike Reese. And that joke, it's another of the so many jokes of just people saying like, Jay, you're a hideous monster. I just think you're a hunchback just looking at you.
Yeah, well, he always was made out to be much more hideous than he actually was. I thought
Well, when Valerie wakes up to see his face, just to react like,
it's like a fisheye lens.
We get the benefit of that fisheye lens view of oh my god.
Which even if you're in love with him,
looks like a moai head.
After a one night stand, waking up to that, you would. I feel like even someone who loves him would have that reaction. So I don't think that's revealing her true feelings. She doesn't react to Jeremy. She's not into Jeremy or his charm.
Yeah, I love the line, "Take your genitalia right back to Australia." I remember my mom laughing at that a lot because we did watch The Critic together.
And there's a callback. If you don't understand why Jeremy would say "don't do blackface" at an awards thing,
very recent.
No, don't do blackface at the NAACP Awards.
Yes,
very
things
specific.
I've learned from experience. That is a reference to Ted Danson at the Friars Club in October of the 1993. Ted Danson, who at the time was dating Whoopi Goldberg, they were a famous Hollywood couple. That it was Whoopi Goldberg's Friars Club roast, and so part of his parody was he appears in blackface and in minstrelsy blackface, and then does his routine. Which, look, the Friars Club is about being as inappropriate as possible. But also I watched more of his routine from that. The shock of the blackface is one thing, but then the rest of his jokes, this isn't very funny.
Yeah, I mean, these photos are still online. I feel like if he did this 20 years later, he could never work again.
No, never. But
I think he said later that the blackface was actually Whoopi Goldberg's idea, although that might have just been a way of saving face.
No pun
Saving
intended.
blackface. Yeah.
My black girlfriend said it was cool, so...
I mean, I could totally see
She's
Whoopi.
the mayor of all black people.
Yes.
I would absolutely believe Whoopi would think that was funny, but I don't want to put words in her mouth. I want to get that directly from her. But so if you're wondering why there's many jokes across the entire series of Critic that, like, if you were alive in 1994, it will make absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
It is not. The show is so contemporary. It's not timeless in the least. The opening bit movie parody is Alien 3. Alien 3,
right.
the least loved
Yeah.
Alien. Though that's the best scene of it, of the alien basically getting all up in her personal space and getting right up to her. That
Putting
is
its
the best
penis
shot
head
from
in
it.
it.
Well, I think if
Don't
there's
think about what it represents.
one single iconic shot from that entire trilogy, it's that one.
Pretty much. I mean, I see that memed the most.
And Maurice can't not do a Bullwinkle voice in this episode.
They even try talking like this. Yeah.
Jinx.
Sorry.
And so then...
Oh, every character is great in this family.
I love this. I don't think any of these actors are... No, I think that father is
Garrett
dead.
Graham is still alive.
Okay, so every actor's still alive.
He played Bud the Chud.
I saw your show the other night, son. Doing the weather now, are you?
No, Dad. That was the thermometer.
So, my boy, do you think it'll snow tomorrow?
I don't know.
Well, we sure could use some snow. Had the chains on since July.
My father had a stroke a few years ago.
He didn't really. We just say that to explain his personality.
The peanut is neither a pea nor a nut.
So, I hear you're an actress.
Oh, wait. It is a nut.
Yes, my first movie comes out next week.
Oh, I see. You're just dating my son till he gives you a good review. Then you'll drop him and he'll be back here with one of those nice girls from the escort service.
I mean, Franklin Sherman is sort of the Ralph Wiggum of the Critic in
And
a
from
way.
that start,
Yeah.
that's him at his most subdued.
He's very subdued. He'll be flying planes later and stealing Guernica. And,
It's flanderized
Yeah.
within minutes on the show. Like,
Quick Draw McGraw parodies.
Right, and Popeye.
But, yeah, Garrett Graham, like, it blew my mind years after watching The Critic, seeing Phantom of the Paradise.
Oh, you're right.
He is Beef. In that, who's like this bizarre, like, glam rock character, and like, I can't believe it's the same guy.
My favorite Franklin line is Nilknarf. You can say your name backwards. Nilknarf. What's your favorite food? Nilknarf. He's just...
They say, if I could be any vegetable, I'd be a carrot. Is that him too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I have to do my favorite, though.
What is it?
As the first black female head of the KKK, I say, America sucks.
That was when he was running for president.
When he was
if I
running for
remember.
Oh, you're right.
Oh, I forgot that he was the mayor of New York. Like that is, or he had been a mayor governor of New York in his background.
That's why Ed Koch is the only eligible bachelor that the daughter knows.
That's right.
But they talked about how the idea that Jay is adopted by obscenely waspy people.
Oh,
That's
God.
great.
Yeah.
It's great character background, and they talk about how to create the characters of Franklin.
I was gonna mention
and
this,
his mother, that Algina Reese, who went to Harvard, they got out of their Harvard yearbook and found those exact people in the collection of blue bloods in the Harvard yearbook.
They live on forever through the Critic. And I mean, Eleanor is basically Katharine Hepburn, right?
Yeah. She's so good. Just so cruel. Like
acidic. She's like a template for the mom in Arrested Development almost.
Her and Lucille have a little, more than a little bit in common.
She's less drinky than Lucille.
Not that Eleanor doesn't drink.
No. But Franklin is more of the drinky type.
Yes, but
so what is his deal, by the way? I mean, is he just an alcoholic? Did he lose his mind? Does he have dementia?
I think it was sort of explained, like, it is alcoholism.
Yeah.
Because there's that episode later where they get lost on the desert island and he stops drinking and
You're
becomes...
right. That's right.
He very intelligent, like Superman, gets immediately physically fit.
But he's still talking to animals.
Yeah.
He's still talking to a penguin.
He's
Penguins can't fly.
Because the penguin was trying to fly the plane.
That's
Penguins
true.
can't. A penguin, and he's been drinking.
Oh, that's so good.
The mother's cruelty, I love Eleanor just as much as Franklin, and that just to Jay's face, she's just like, those nice girls from the escort service.
I love
so acidic.
Like the running
He brings
gag.
prostitutes to meet his parents.
Yeah, just the running gag. No one believes she's really dating him.
Yeah. Nobody
Every
can
single
possibly...
person they meet is she's using you.
Margot kind of investigates her, kind of interrogates her, rather.
Margot's the closest thing to a normal person in this world of the Critic. Played by Nancy Cartwright.
That's right,
A normal woman. Like her playing someone who's probably about 15 years younger than she is at the time of recording.
Yeah. She's a teenager, right? Or late teens.
Late teens. She has her debutante ball, which would put her in, I believe, 17.
Well, she goes to, they say the name of her school, Miss Something School.
Finishing school or something?
Miss Something School for Untouched Girls.
Oh, right.
I think they even say on the commentary that they went for so many different women, and they eventually just were like, Nancy.
Yeah, it's a good voice. I like Nancy's natural voice.
Well, okay, I'm going to do my line of the show because I love this, but it's also one of like the darkest jokes in the whole show too.
I just made that up.
That's the line of the show, jingle, everybody.
It's from the cruise control.
Yeah. Valerie, how'd you like to go for a ride?
Sure. Jay, are you coming?
Sorry, I had a very bad experience with a horse once.
Now, before I let you ride the pony, are you sure you weigh less than 80 pounds?
Yeah.
Patches. No!
Patches is great.
I can just see the celery being snapped.
Yes. The audio on that is perfect.
Yeah, especially without the visuals. You just terrible
crunch. But that was a very Simpson-y moment too, of just looking to the sky screaming no.
That's true. We just saw that in Homer the Vigilante, actually.
And also, I think of this line all the time. Anytime I bend over and knock something over with my butt.
Why does everyone have such a hard time believing I love Jay?
How can I put this? For one thing, his butt sticks out like an air conditioner.
Ooh, a daffodil.
That was the one that was all over the commercials too. I felt like before this show aired, I remember seeing that.
Fat man butt on ABC.
Can I tell you my line of the show? Because we just went past it. The end of the dinner scene. I'm going to work this into my discussions way more often. Can't one dinner go by without you talking about your rotting corpse?
That's great. You have to imagine what happened before.
How many times?
So we see another Simpsons device in which they're doing social commentary through a fake video game.
Yeah.
I think it's Escape from New York. Is that what it's called?
Escape from New York.
The Big Apple.
The Big Apple, yeah, not
blah,
the film.
blah, blah.
So this is the Larry the Looter joke, except with more New York specifics.
Yeah.
Hurry up, Dad. You've only got 10 seconds to get to Long Island.
Uh-oh, Yankee Stadium is emptying out.
It's Nickel Beer Day.
Oh no, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
Blah, 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 blah.
Wow.
Such a nice job with the little pixelated, like, running suit and the gold chain and the big dumb hair.
The fake pixel graphics are great on this.
Oh,
That is the Al Sharpton. If you only knew Al Sharpton when he put on a suit and started running for president, he dressed a little differently before then when he was a guest star on the Morton Downey.
Oh shit!
If you only knew him from the Morton Downey
he was
Jr.
even
show.
worse than he was more crass than Bill O'Reilly. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, Morton Downey Jr. But that Al Sharpton
more
was
like
on,
an early Alex Jones.
Yeah.
But that Morton Downey Jr. had on Al Sharpton many times because he could count on him like, we're going to scream at each other a lot and everybody's going to love it. You can draw a direct line of him to Bill O'Reilly, to Glenn Beck, to Sean Hannity. He is this guy.
And Morton Downey Jr. will live on forever as Morton Koopa Jr. in the Mario series. Can you believe they have to live with that reference?
Well, then Morton Downey Jr. chain smoked on every show, and he was just like, I'm healthy, I'm going to live forever, like cancer within a decade.
And he was like, no, actually smoking's bad, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he did that like smoking cessation thing. It's like, am I paid? Of course I am. They gave me my life back.
Oh, God.
Oh, landmark moments coming up, right?
Well, so they introduced kind of a sloppy ADR line. They set up that Jay doesn't want to review her movie because he doesn't want to not like it, which honestly, as a critic who has not reviewed something because I know people involved in it, That's all you do. You just say, well, I'm too close to this thing. I'm not going to review it. Like,
yeah, but Duke probably would not buy that.
I guess in Jay's world that you don't get away with.
We don't have that conversation, which is a little bit odd. Like, he doesn't actually ever go to Duke and say, I can't do this.
Duke just I guess sending him the tape is Duke insisting on it. But yes, as he explains why he is trying to get out of it, we get another landmark first in the show.
Honey, I heard you were sick.
Oh, yes, I am. Much too sick to see your movie.
And
I like how later Achim becomes his eating sound, like Achim, Achim, Achim. Oh no, I'm allergic to shellfish.
I mean, that was a John Lovitz.
You hear it in the Simpsons appearance. Like that was just a Lovitzism that snuck in.
I mean, I think he's making everything he does just more Jewish. Is that like a more Jewish way of clearing your throat?
Turn it up just a tiny bit.
And I mean, it's great for clearing your throat. Try it at home. Achim.
I prefer Achim as his catchphrase than the more labored catchphrase we'll get to in a little bit. But then we got, I think, to the standout moment in the episode.
Oh yeah,
let's just listen to the whole thing.
Oh, it's beautiful.
A story told through time, happening in New York. He's a lemon, she's a lime, Beauty and King Dork.
He's Adam to her Eve, she's Mindy to his Mark. Her hair's like silk, he's had a weave.
Beauty and King Dork.
What did you say?
Huh? Oh, I said, how useful is the spork? You know, that spoon-forked thing you get at Kentucky Fried Chicken? I covered that up pretty well.
That is such an Al Jean Mike Reese thing.
That sequence,
the singing dustbuster and toilet.
Yes. So I mean, whenever they cut to his face singing Beauty and King Dork, that final line, my heart breaks every time. It's so well animated.
That scene touches me so much because it's him. You know that it's all in his head, but just he's like, Beauty. And just him going like, finally I have a beautiful, I'm in love. I'm so in love. I'm with this beautiful person. And I finally feel happy as this like ugly loser. That's what it does touch me in a certain way. And that's his dream of it.
Yeah, and we missed earlier teenagers were spray painting King Dork on his car. That's where that reference comes from. But I wanted to point out that Rich Moore started the company Rough Draft, an animation studio. They were pioneers in computer animation for television. They, in fact, animated the Max on MTV, which was like a sort of a breakout show in terms of doing things with computers.
Animated is a loose term.
They moved around shapes with computers. But this scene is definitely just just an amazing scene for TV in '94. Approximating the Beauty and the Beast camera pull out with CGI. I mean, it is for TV. It looks a little more primitive, but the fact that they were able to do that, they had that ambition in the pilot is amazing.
When you see how in later episodes, especially with clip shows, you're like, did you run out of money? When you see this at first episode, you're like, well, I'd see how you ran out of money if this was Rough Draft, who and this is credited specifically to Scott Vanzo, brother of
Scott
Greg
Vanzo and Rich Moore, I think, started the company.
And that along with Greg Vanzo,
Greg
who
Vanzo
also
too,
worked it, and that Rough Draft is based in Korea, and Rough Draft would be the primary animators on Futurama.
That's right, lots of CGI.
And this is them testing out their Futurama chops of CGI.
I didn't realize how much CGI there was, and then putting it into historical context. I mean, they used CGI in the same shot in Beauty and the Beast in '91. But Toy Story's not out yet. There has not been a feature length.
Well, it was still film. We'd see Disney Channel featurettes at the time, back when Disney Channel didn't have commercials about here's how computers are helping animation. It was like this scene from The Great Mouse Detective in this giant clock. But I just wanted to point out additional historical context. The Critic began with great, for the era, computer animation and ended with terrible computer animation.
Which one are you talking
What did it
about?
end with?
The Flash series on Atom Films.
Oh, you're right. Technically, that was computer animation.
That doesn't have that is non-canonical in my memories of the Critic. He should never not be with Alice, but they couldn't get her back. It was just him, so I was like, I don't like this.
Just him and some other female character.
Some new
they
character,
created,
yeah. But they
Some
couldn't get
new love
Charles
interest.
Napier, and Doris Grau was dead, and Park Overall was too expensive. So
Yeah, so it's just a bummer.
Yeah.
But I wonder if Rough Draft also handled it too when he goes, Beauty and King Dork, because that felt like fuller animation.
it looked like Disney, just
Yeah.
like a custom, mouth chart or something for that line, or just some guy just sat down and was like, I want to make this beautiful.
Because when it cuts to the next camera angle of that scene, it's like, oh no, this is normal Critic animation now. And then you get a very John Lovitz-y talk to the camera, like, cover that up pretty well, which Burns says that exact line in Treehouse of Horror 3, and he's like, the bathing beauty. I covered that up pretty well.
I was wondering which episode it was, but I remember that being a Burns line.
Frinkiac, I was able to just look it up. He put in those exact words. That's thank you, Frinkiac. So he thinks he tricked her as not to be. They send a VHS tape to him, and that he's wearing one of many jokes they have of him wearing promotional clothes in bed, even though he makes a lot of money.
A My Own Private Idaho t-shirt, which I guess the joke is that they would even make that, and then backdraft boxers, which make more sense.
That is funnier. I think my favorite one of those is like For the Boys. His For the Boys underwear. I wonder if the My Own Private Idaho is meant to be a gay joke. It was a gay film.
It was, yeah. But I mean, I do sleep in promotional clothing a lot.
Yeah,
because I'm not going to wear it outside.
Yeah, it's perfect for that.
I finally have cycled through all my promotional clothing. I don't have promotional. I don't want to say that with definite, but I definitely don't wear it outside anymore.
I do sleep in a Phoenix Wright t-shirt a lot.
So then, when he is forced to watch the film Kiss of Death, we get the first use of his real catchphrase, which even Mike Reese admits was a very sweaty use to give a guy a catchphrase.
Later used by Millhouse.
But
on
again,
The Simpsons.
Another very quotable line. I will say it every now and then. Not Hachi Machi, but something else.
Yep.
Ah, come on. How bad could she be? She's wonderful.
Come on, baby. Give me a kiss.
Oh, I'll give you a kiss, all right. A kiss of death!
Okay, Machi. She's awful.
But yeah,
a kiss of death.
Yeah,
Kiss
so I mean,
But they- and then you say that to Michael.
Michael is my husband, so he can vouch for me.
Was that at your wedding ceremony?
Yes. No, actually,
you may
like
not kiss the bride. I'll give you a kiss.
When
I'll
Diana
give you
and
a
I
kiss,
first
all right.
met, our love of the Critic was one of the things that we bonded over,
Aw.
and like we kept quoting that
Adorable.
line at each other.
I'll give you a kiss, all right.
A kiss of death.
Of death!
We did miss my favorite line of the show, actually, in the pre-Beauty and King Dork scene. I love Jay saying, "We men have pedals too, you know."
Oh,
That's creepy. I don't want to think
I've really
about
opened up. Yeah, it is. I love how creepy it
I don't want to
is.
think about where the pedals are.
I don't want to think about Jay Sherman's pedals.
I had to play that line in the show jingle again since you said that.
I just made that up.
His pedals are just very large skin tags.
Oh, God. You made it worse, Michael. You made it worse.
Thinking about that. Well, so then we hear about Jay has a real dilemma now.
Oh, Doris, I'm about to do a review that could cost me the woman I love.
Gee, that's tough.
Sometimes I think this job isn't worth $271,000 a year.
271,000.
Put it out! Put out my head! You did that on purpose.
So what if I did? I'm union.
That's a lot of money for a film critic.
Yeah.
I mean,
in
the world was smaller.
1993, when was this?
94. Written in
pre.
This is January 94.
But pre-internet, the price of criticism was much higher.
Has anyone done what that is for inflation?
No, I did not.
That's like $400K or something.
271,000.
271K. Yeah.
Take a quick step back. Hachi Manchi, they talk about like this was our attempt to manufacture a catchphrase, and it never caught on.
No, it really didn't. And that he said he got it from like a.
But I say it sometimes.
I say it sometimes, yeah.
And I never say that. I got way more catchphrases. I would much sooner say crows. You know you want me, baby.
I say bucka bucka or woozle wuzzle.
Woozle wuzzle.
All right, so if you want to know, $271,000 in January '94 is $450,000 today.
I assumed it was over $400K.
Honestly, to be an television personality who films a weekly show seemingly without break, as Jay does, That's
presumably with nationwide coverage.
Yeah, on cable, that's not a bad... Like, that's kind of low, honestly. I had heard through the grapevine the type of stuff that, say, Adam Sessler and Olivia Munn were making on G4. Now, when you would think, like, what did people make on G4? Nobody watches that. They made a lot more than that a year on that show. I don't want to talk out of school, but so... Just think about that, like cable personalities, despite being useless and only used for clips on YouTube, like they get paid a lot of money.
And Jay has a really nice apartment.
Oh yeah. Not as nice as Doris's though, as we'd see later.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
And
well, because it's rent controlled since 1947.
I love that he's just so ready to bash her head in.
But yeah, here's a reference that kind of lost to time. No
This
one
is
mentions,
really lost to time.
I mean, I feel like the Butler show we all know more than this is Mr. Belvedere, probably.
Yeah.
That has gone on to be better remembered than a family affair.
Mr. Belvedere ate Family Affairs lunch.
Yeah. But I mean, so the Critic was obsessed with Brando.
Yes. Maurice LaMarche was obsessed. They were all obsessed with Brando.
Yeah,
and so
I mean,
they just couldn't stop doing it.
It was an easy way to make fat jokes.
Well, you get easy fat jokes, and you can make jokes about somebody being paid a lot to do a bad job, which was Marlon Brando's job at that time.
Tonight, we'll be reviewing Family Affair, the motion picture. Just look who got $8 million to play Mr. French.
Buffy, Zodi, for your lunch I have made peanut butter and banana sandwiches.
Would you make a sandwich for my doll, Mrs. Beasley?
Yeah, sure. That's exactly what I feel like doing. Of course I can get together a little sandwich for your stupid little doll. Hang on a sec.
I mean, this is not too outlandish because we just had the opening of Car 54, Where Are You, the movie. So this is not too crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that feels like a parody in and of itself,
Although, to this day, the only thing I know about A Family Affair comes from, like, an Onion column from Jean Teasdale, where she, like, spends a crazy amount of time and money trying to track down a Mrs. Beasley doll.
That does seem very of her character, yeah.
Jean Teasdale is one of my all-time favorites.
She's great. I need to buy that book.
The book of
she
Jean's
wrote.
Own is so great.
Oh, wow.
And Family Affair never did get a film version. The closest thing it got was a 2002 UPN reboot.
Oh, no.
And the man playing Mr. French was Tim Curry.
Oh,
really?
Yes. He's better than that.
He
And
deserves so much better.
It lasted half a season.
I mean, he would literally do anything. I think he was in most CD-ROM games in the 90s.
Yes. And the show was produced, both the original and the remake, by Sid and Marty Krofft.
History's Greatest Monsters.
They're purveyor of child nightmares.
Whenever they
Purveyors.
tried to make fun, they wanted to make fun things. They didn't want to.
They wanted to make live-action cartoons that were insanely creepy nightmares.
it's like
that inspire creepypasta internet memes to this day.
I've destroyed my mind with acid. Time to make children's programming.
Whenever I say their names, I want to say the Mr. Show parody of Sid and Criminy Craft.
Yeah.
But,
Back then, eating an orange was
Craft.
like taking a drive through a citrus mountain.
So Jay gives her a bad review, a nice bad review.
Oh, he's so polite.
very
He's
soft.
like, oh, she tried her best, but
Yeah, and there are plenty of actors that got better over
Yeah.
time. Sally Field did not start out a great actress.
this does not make Valerie look good. I'll say,
And-
like, she's not treated very well by the show.
And I do love the visual joke of Franklin saying, his nose is as big as my foot. See? Which I thought was a joke
isn't that
from a
incredible?
later episode. Yeah, isn't
Yeah.
that incredible? So the way she acts in this scene is so different from how she acts in every other scene that it does make you think she really was just sleeping with him for the review.
I mean, the intent is just like, we have to have her leave the show now.
Oh, and also we get another celebrity that can't stop popping up because one actor wants to do it.
Oh, you're right.
You're short, you're fat, and even for a film critic, you're ugly.
That's a good act.
Oh, I see. You want me to beg. Well, there's one thing you didn't count on. I have no pride. Please, 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 please.
Denise, if you come back to me, I'll give up gambling for good.
What a loser. Sun Yi, I swear I didn't know she was your sister.
Oh, man. That's a dark joke.
Yeah. In case you don't know, this was my introduction to Woody Allen. In 1994, I had never seen a Woody Allen movie. Like, even when Marge, I didn't know the name of that person was Woody Allen. I didn't know who Sun Yi was. Like, I think it was until after Marge makes the joke of like, did you see the new Woodsy Allen movie?
Oh, right. I just don't like that
after
nervous fellow who's always in them.
But in case you didn't know, Woody Allen was with Mia Farrow, who adopted many children, and in a totally not creepy way, he started dating one of her adopted daughters while he was married to her.
Oh,
which
man.
he tries to play off as like, I never even saw her as a father. Like,
What a
which
quirk.
also just says like, oh, so you were a horrible father who was just like, fuck you kids. Like,
There's a
I mean, it's he had children, or at least one child, with Mia Farrow. So this is your kid's sister.
Mhm. And
Duh.
and then there's also some stuff with Mia Farrow's biological children too.
Yeah,
And, but
yeah.
so in 1992, publicly he was like, "Fine, I'm just with her," and he married her. And ever since then, it's just been like it's just this very disgusting fact of a guy who is like separate in the artist is dead scenario. He makes great films he's made many great films that are just like, what a great filmmaker. But when you know the man who's just like, you're a piece of shit, like you should be in jail.
I mean, view all of his films through that lens. I mean, Manhattan is hard to watch now, but
especially Manhattan.
It generated one of my favorite King of the Hill lines, where Nancy is trying to find a way to continue cheating on Dale, and she tells Peggy like, "The heart wants what it wants, Woody Allen," and she turns away, and Peggy's like, "Nancy, he married his daughter."
That is a good line.
Well, I mean, to his credit, they're still together. Apparently.
They are.
Yeah.
All these, 20 blood years
And I'm
later.
sure it's a very equal relationship
Well,
between
it's
two equal partners.
It's really interesting that if you've ever seen a documentary where they are interacting together, she bosses the shit out of him, and then he says really cruel things about her behind her back.
Oof.
Yeah, like
Yuck.
he'll just look at the camera and be like, when she was a kid, she was eating garbage in Korea. It's like,
God.
this is weird,
That's
guys.
not cool.
This is weird.
Was that in his clarinet movie?
Yes.
Ugh. Barfo.
It was interesting.
I can't go to the Oscars because I have to play my clarinet at a club. Like, eat shit.
Yeah.
God.
Steve Allen show ended, Woody.
If I can bring it back to a slightly more pleasant topic,
Yes.
Which is actually going to be much more horrible, is that in the very next shot after her bus leaves and the Woody Allen walks by, he follows her to the airport, to the gate of her airport. And for those of you who have never been in airports before 9/11 happened, you used to be able to go right up to the gate without a ticket.
You do that all the time.
Yep.
That's why you can
That's
never...
where you would meet people when they deplaned.
Post 9/11 ruined the "don't get on that plane" scene from romantic comedy.
I think they're playing off of that, in which like Jay is not arriving at the last minute. He's begging her all the way up until she leaves on the plane,
and then he won't let go. But that also feels like a very Gene and Reese Simpson-y thing of, that is a very dark ending. The dark ending is just like, no, you're alone, and crying alone at the airport. And then they have to give 30 seconds of sweetness because we can't leave you on that feeling.
and he's saying like, "You'll be back to the plane as it's flying away."
You'll be back.
Also, is it weird that a movie actress has to take the bus to the airport?
Well, her movie sucks.
Well,
so.
she's not a famous movie
Well,
actress.
she should have taken the cab that we went past with the
That's
driver
true.
that says, "Look at sign."
Driver speaks only 3 words of English.
I love that is the recurring cab driver, but
Yeah.
I just love the look at sign.
The cyclical nature of "look at sign."
Yeah.
The driver only speaks 3 words of English.
Later, Jay teaches English for cab drivers.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right,
I get through every day with lithium.
Lithium.
Oh man, I want to do all these Critic episodes.
Don't give our audience any
Remembering
ideas.
listening to Howard Stern, and Howard Stern says something about a toilet. It's like, ha, toilet.
So in 1994,
Oh, boy.
it seems really weird to do like a shot at Seinfeld. Like this isn't particularly nice to Seinfeld. It could be crueler, I suppose.
I think they're making fun of the voice of Seinfeld and the natural. I mean, not the voice of Jerry Seinfeld, but the voice of the show and the naturalistic dialogue, where it's like
Marty's comment to me makes it sound like that is writers saying they think this is naturalistic, but it isn't. It sounds false.
Yeah, but I guess the joke is that they're fooling America into thinking like, yeah.
But it's just weird to see a sitcom take a shot at Seinfeld of all things.
Yeah,
Like,
even The Simpsons kind of laid off,
Yeah.
I thought you were taking Kathy out tonight.
Why do they call it taking out? I took her to a restaurant. It wasn't out, it was in. I would say I'm taking her in, but then she sounds like a pair of pants.
Why aren't you laughing, Dad? This is how people actually talk.
And speaking of Woody Allen, I
It's
believe Jerry
Maurice LaMarche
Seinfeld.
is Seinfeld, right?
Yeah, and Nick Jameson doing George Costanza. But speaking of Woody Allen, I believe Seinfeld was dating a 17-year-old at the time. So
yes.
And again, he would not live that down
which
like today.
became the plot of a Married with Children episode.
You're right.
Where
Yeah.
like the Seinfeld analog is dating
Kelly?
Kelly
yeah.
Bundy. Yeah,
That's right. Jesus.
man, he
but-
lived that down. It's amazing.
But when Marty just says, like, Marty laughs too hard to tell you that, like, this isn't funny, or
I love the joke of Kramer busting into the whoa.
Whoa!
That could be a joke on Seinfeld, to be fair.
It could be. It's 80% as good as
Yeah,
a
there'd be
Seinfeld
a little more to it, I think.
slightly more, but yeah, it was a weird direct joke at Seinfeld, and then they just go see a Stallone movie. It's a joke about they had some sacred cows that I think that was like future-proofing them, like, okay, who's been in bad movies you can make fun of for like the last decade? Schwarzenegger, Stallone, William Shatner.
Yep.
They could do every one of them.
Rhinestone. He survived Rhinestone.
He is unkillable.
In this unnamed Stallone movie, he plays a concert pianist to
Yeah.
the multiplex.
Yep, that's how Jay gets his groove back.
Yeah.
Dumping on a shitty movie.
But
I feel you, buddy.
That's true. That's true.
I do love the little sting. It's a very heartwarming sting every episode ends with. It's like bum bum bum.
Yeah,
I don't know where it comes from, or if it's just made by Alf Clausen.
It kind
Is
of
it from the theme song?
No, it just kind of mirrors the theme song
A bit, yeah.
But it leaves you with more of a upbeat thing than just the Simpsons, like da 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 da.
Yeah,
like da da. It's a more strong feeling.
It brings you out with a better mood, I think.
Yes. And so there's one recurring joke they do every episode that The Simpsons doesn't do, which is a post-credit stinger that, well, not even stinger, but like a post-credits joke that changes out each time. And
It's very MST3K almost,
It is.
with the way the credits run.
This is the first one of them, and I think, honestly, the weakest one they ever did.
Excuse me, sir. The show's over.
Get away, zit face.
Yeah.
But that is their squeaky voice team.
I feel like
That's
they
right.
did different ones for a while, but then didn't they start recycling them after a while?
I think they maybe had like 10 total.
Yeah, but I have nowhere to go.
That is
I'm
easily
stuck
the
in
best.
the chair.
No, I have nowhere else to go.
Do we see the Gracie Films logo after we see Jay's back of his head in the movie theater?
Yes.
I think we do. We
Yeah.
cut from a movie theater to another movie theater.
And also that Jay, in a very like moment-breaking scene that he has to say, like, all celebrity voices were impersonated. No celebrities were harmed in the filming of this episode. That they have to, even though it's all over the screen too, that just to be so lawyer-proof, like,
Oh, yeah.
these are all impersonations. They're not the real people.
Beavis and Butthead are cartoons.
Yeah, I think the no celebrities were harmed thing were them trying to like bury the legality of it. Like, no, it's a joke. See, you know.
Well, I mean, South Park has been doing that since the first episode.
That's true.
Too.
That's true. Yeah.
It was a really good first episode. The show would get mean. It would get slightly less mean. Though I think like the fat little pig episode is just cruel.
Oh, yeah.
Or the
It's really
episode
bad.
where he's just canceled because everyone hates him. It's like, man, this is me.
ABC was not ready for this, but I feel like everyone but Franklin is sort of who they will always be. Franklin would get turned up maybe like 3 notches.
Yeah,
his
yeah.
dad. But I feel like they kind of established everybody like very strongly from the beginning.
Yeah.
Well, Duke gets to be nicer to him as
Yeah.
the show goes on, and Duke gets. And they also talk about how like they would Flanderize Duke too, of like, it'd be funny if your character cried here or sang a song to a cat.
Yeah.
Or, they did that shit all the time with Duke.
Are they? He runs a KFC style chain and like just keeps biscuits in his pockets.
Oh, yes.
And Al's like, you keep biscuits in your pants? And Jay's like, yes. Oh, you were talking to him.
Well, isn't his network called like Duke's blah 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 in House of Waffles and
Yes,
Chicken and Waffles?
yeah, that's
like,
right.
yeah, you see that on the establishing shot all the time.
Wait till you see the muffin shoot. There's so many. There are a million great Critic jokes. I think this episode, as a pilot in their first one, it holds up really well. I think even on the commentary, Al Jean says that for animation, which he has a ton of experience in, he sees the first season as an entire pilot. You learn everything in the first season because nobody sees it until the whole season is done in animation or close to it. So then the second season is really your reaction to that. And so that's the Critic too, that they made Critic in a vacuum. Oh, also, I didn't even mention Judd Apatow. It was another hire on the show.
Oh, wow.
He I think
He's,
only wrote a script in the second season.
But he's listed as a producer?
He's a consulting producer.
Consulting
He's
producer.
on the end there, but he Also, when there's going to be a Jay Leno impersonation on the show, that's Apatow. He did Jay Leno on the Ben Stiller show as well.
Yeah, see, I remember because I saw Ben Stiller show and then noticed the name, at the end, and then when I saw this and noticed the same name and was like, Apatow, huh?
And
I think this young man might be going somewhere.
And some writers like Ken Keeler would start on the Critic, jump to the Simpsons, and then go to Futurama. So this is sort of I don't know, they're crossbreeding a lot with different shows.
It's very incestuous for sure, but I mean, Ken Keeler, you listen to him on commentaries like you were born to do Futurama. You are the dorkiest math nerd in the world.
He's the nerdiest guy on any Simpsons or Futurama commentary. Nerdier than David X. Cohen, nerdier than Al Jean. He is like beyond nerdy.
It's incredible how nerdy Ken Keeler is. And he's right. And you're a cool guy if you're listening to this, Ken Keeler.
He is great.
Anyway, I think this pilot holds up pretty well. I wouldn't mind doing more critiquing critics in the future, but
I'm in.
I just wanted us to, we had approached the premiere of the Critic, and we talked about the Critic so much in Talking Simpsons up to this point that I felt like we had to do the first episode.
We got 90 minutes out of it, and spoilers, we may be talking about another show that premiered shortly afterwards in another special. So
but
if I have my way.
Yes, do let us know in the comments nicely, please, if you like this and wouldn't mind us, because there is easily a half dozen shows that are tangentially related to The Simpsons or somewhat spun off to The Simpsons that, when in chronological order we get to their premiere, we could do King of the Hill, Futurama, Mission Hill.
Behind the scenes info, we talked about it. We only have so many really good episodes of The Simpsons left. Probably maybe 2 years of our time left of the show that we really like.
We got to pad it out then with other shows.
These specials help us extend that time a bit.
But I hope you guys liked it. And how do you guys? Well, Michael, you've never been on a Talking Simpsons before.
That's
I
true,
guess
I
this
haven't.
officially isn't one. But did you enjoy your time, Michael?
I did quite a bit. I can't wait to see the comments that are. I actually think with this show we're less likely to see comments saying, "I can't stand Bob and Henry's politics," and also Michael's dead-on impersonation of my voice.
Who are these fandom creeps on my laser time?
They should make their own show.
I don't get that at all. But yeah, I mean, if you want more of these kind of things, give us more money. Maybe.
Yeah,
we like money.
Book.
And
buy my book.
I have to say, also rewatching this, going in, I was like, did I even see the pilot? Do I remember this? And then it's like, I thought this, all this stuff happened much later in the series in a bunch of different episodes, like Beauty and King Dork, the whole thing with Valerie, and
a lot of this is in the clip shows. They use several scenes of this in the clip shows.
It's probably the strongest animated pilot for a primetime show I've seen. Maybe.
I think so.
How useful is the spork?
Yes. I'll spork your ass. So yeah, this has been Talking Critic, I guess temporarily, and I've been your host, Bob Mackey. You can find me on Twitter as Bob Servo. I also write about video games every damn day for Fandom. Go to fandom.com to read that. Every other Thursday for the past decade plus, I've been writing a comedy article for Something Awful. Go to somethingawful.com to read those. And my other podcast is Retronauts, every Monday at retronauts.com. There is a new episode about a new topic. We've been doing it forever. So if you want to listen to the show, just find a topic you like and listen to that episode. I guarantee you'll enjoy it. Go to retronauts.com or search for Retronauts in your podcast machine or iTunes or whatever the hell you use to listen to podcasts. Everybody else.
I'm HENEREYG on Twitter. Keep checking me there. I also write for Fandom.com like Bob. And, of course, this was all brought to you by Patreon.com/LaserTime. And it is what supports this show. It keeps this home studio open where we can record this. And it is the home of the first season of Talking Simpsons as well as our Season 2, 3, and 4 wrap-up specials. So much great stuff there. Just $5 a month gets you access to it, and it helps support us. And there's tons of more exclusive things there. And plus, if you want to see more videos and listen to more Laser Time podcasts, check out lasertimepodcast.com. I'm doing this all on Chris's behalf here since he isn't here, but I know 2 podcasts in particular that you guys want to plug, right, Michael?
Yes. Well, I mean, if you're a regular listener of Talking Simpsons and you usually download this from your iPhone or Android device and don't go to lasertimepodcast.com, it's entirely possible that you've never heard of my filthy, stupid podcast about video games, Vigigame Apocalypse, which has me and Chris Antista and Dave Rudden and a cycling fourth chair that changes from week to week.
Bob and I have done it several times.
Yeah, that's true.
I've been on a
Each. And hopefully soon again. We start out every week with a top 5 about some esoteric topic that I usually think up the day before. more and talk about new releases and other stuff. It's a fun time if you like the video games.
And I'm also on a podcast, but not about video games because I don't know shit about video games. But I do know shit about old stuff because I am one. I am on 30/20/10.
You're an old stuff?
I am an old stuff.
Old stuff.
I'm an old stuff. Yes, it's not quite. It's like double stuff.
Is that like your Dungeons
stuff.
and Dragons race, old stuff?
Yes, old stuff. I'm one of the elder gods. I live beneath the sea, dreaming about 30/20/10, a podcast about this particular week in pop culture history, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and 10 years ago. So if you want to hear about what was going on heading into summer 1987, 97, 07, we will talk about it.
If you liked all our references or explanations of dated references in this episode, then you will love that show.
The whole thing. That's just all we do. Of like, what the fuck is this movie? Well, we'll find out.
And seriously, if you like this one or you want to hear more Critic episodes, maybe tell a friend, tell us about it on Twitter. Or if you're like, we only want Simpsons, I subscribe this for Simpsons, nicely say that, I guess, if you want to.
But how can you like The Simpsons and not like The Critic? I don't understand.
I wouldn't watch The Critic for half an hour. I'm not going to listen to your show for 3 times that long.
And also, Sony, who owns it, doesn't seemingly give a shit about it. It's all on YouTube.
It's all on YouTube, yeah.
I got all these clips from YouTube. Like
every episode.
Straight from, I didn't have to dig up my DVDs. Yeah.
They're not even shrunken backwards and in German. They're just all up on YouTube.
Just straight to the show.
Don't even have to hide it. It's probably been there since 2007.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us on this special episode of Talking Simpsons. We'll be back next week with the Simpsons episode. Bart visits the box factory, everybody.
Oh
See
my
you then.
God.
Excuse me, sir. The show's over.
But I have nowhere to go.